This is a conversation I imagine with an artist. Now, let me say I imagine, and you're going to see a lot of stuff that I've changed name, dates, place, everything else. But everything in here, real people have said. So don't read this and go, you made this entire thing up. I researched every single line and had many conversations with artists, with other people about this, with industry people. This is made up in the sense that it's fiction. But if you just do your own research, you'll say, hey, this happened. I heard about that. Somebody did do that. Somebody really said that. There is a song out there like that. Please don't think this is fantasy. It's fantasy in the sense that nobody had this conversation with me, but everything here I've heard come out of the mouth of people that I've talked to and researched over the years. First, let me say how much of a pleasure it is to meet you and to be able to talk to you. I've been an admirer of your artistry for a long time. That's true.
Thanks.
You've been in hip-hop for for a long time, right? Nearly 20 years, I think. You started when you were really young.
What do you mean? I'm still really young. I don't want to say how many years it's been, but it has been a long time.
Fair enough. I wanted to talk to you today about some of the content in modern music. I think I'm seeing some trends that seem to be disturbing. I want to get your thoughts on the subject. I'm sure you've been asked about this before.
Yeah, it's the same old stuff. Rap music is violent, rap music is nasty, rap music degrades women. I've heard it all before.
And
what? Those are the opinion of outsiders that just want to single out rap music for some reason. I personally don't believe it has anything to do with the music as much as it does other things. You know, people say they're bothered by rap music, but I think their real motives are something else.
I understand. What makes you think that hip-hop is being singled out?
Because that is all anyone ever talks about. It seems like the media is always talking about how bad rap music is, but they don't ever want to talk about how violent movies, video games, and even television is. It's like rap has the biggest target on it. I mean, when people come to me talking about how rappers need to change, I'm wondering, why are they not talking about other things that are way worse than anything in most rap music?
Well, I think a lot of people would agree with you on that. I think a lot of people know that we need to take a good look at entertainment in general. But as for some of the music, do you think it's right to excuse bad musical content by pointing at other bad content?
What do you mean?
Well, you seem to think that there's a lot of content in movies, video games, etc. that has gone too far. I agree. Yet you seem frustrated that other forms of media aren't being talked about. Is that fair? I mean, if I was talking to someone in Hollywood about the content of movies, would it be fair if they said, hey, don't look at us, you need to be talking to the rappers? It seems like a stalemate of some sorts. People realize there's a problem, but they always want someone else to make the first move.
Possibly, but I still don't think that anything that I'm singing about is any more dangerous than what anyone else is doing. Yes, rappers sing about violent things like guns and expletive, but when you look at a movie where a terrorist blows up a building or with huge gun battles in a bank robbery, I don't know why people aren't upset about that. When I sing about violence, I get called into question about my lyrical content, but when they make a movie about it, they call it a blockbuster.
I agree with you to a point, but surely you can see the difference between the movies you describe and the content of some of the music. I mean, everyone knows that in a movie, the participants are all actors. They know that the violence is just special effects. In most every major movie, there is also a clear line between the good guys and the bad guys, even if the bad guy seems to be winning in his, quote, badness. There's always a clear line for the audience. I don't know if I see the same thing in music.
How do you figure? Are rappers not good guys?
Well, they may in fact be. But the violence that most people are concerned about in music is spoken in a first-person manner. That is, that the listeners don't get the impression that there's a separation between what the artist is saying and the artist himself. I mean, I think that people know that actor name is not the character he plays in movies. He is an evil villain in one movie, then a football coach in the next. I think it is understood that actor name isn't really a villain or a football coach. I'm not sure that rappers and musicians in general are viewed in the same way.
Well, that is their misunderstanding. Interviewee rap name is not me. It is a persona, an image. He is a character that I play in my music, not who I am all the time.
How can that be possible? Does that mean that you do not, in fact, live the life that you talk about in your music? You don't associate with gang name? You don't have people in your entourage with weapons? And you don't spend money at strip clubs and so on? Isn't the concept of authenticity part and parcel to the success of your career? You didn't fabricate your lifestyle and background, did you?
Yes and no. Yes, I do come from a rough place with a bad background. And yes, I know and run with a lot of rough-type people. The lifestyle that I sing about is real, but I'm not a violent person regardless of whatever violent things I sing about.
But how do you reconcile that with your real-life experience? You sing about personally carrying a chopper or machine gun in your car on several of your songs. I hear you saying to me here that those words don't mean anything, but weren't you arrested twice for the possession of such a weapon?
Again, yes and no. Yes, I was arrested for having a certain kind of weapon, but that does not mean that I have used it or would use it.
Okay, so you rap about drinking narcotic drink in a lot of your songs. You recently confessed to being addicted to it, so that part is real. You rap about going to strip clubs and throwing monies at strippers in a lot of your songs. And you continually appear on videos on the internet actually doing it, so that part is real. You rap a lot about buying cars, owning huge houses, and taking exotic vacations in your songs. You're often photographed all over the world doing it, so that part is real. You even rap a lot in your songs about being associated, about your associates being goons and prone to violence. Several members of your inner circle have been arrested and served time for violent offenses, so that part is real. How are we supposed to assume that the drugs and violence you reference in first person are not also real, especially when you've been arrested for possessing the very drugs and weapons you have rapped about having?
It's just the way the rap game works. It's part of the interviewee rap name persona.
So you are mostly him and he is mostly you, but not 100% one or the other.
Correct. I'm an entertainer. That's what I do. Entertain.
Is that what you told the judge in your last weapons trial? I mean, he has to see the same thing we see. You sing about things that you seem to live. When you get caught in something, how does the judge know that you're just acting?
She, not he, just had to take my word for it.
You know, that's the same argument that deceased rapper made before his trial in the 1990s. He made this impassioned speech about how he was just an entertainer and that he was just an artist, etc. I think they sentenced him to a few years anyway. The sad part was, as soon as he got out of prison, he was back in videos on the internet talking about how violent he was and what he was going to do to this person or that one. Kind of confusing for us as fans, don't you think?
You have to think of it like watching wrestling on TV. There's a lot of talking and threats, but it's just a show. The claims about violence are just part of it.
Well, apparently not for deceased rapper. I don't think he was pretending. The last video we saw of him was when he was stomping someone in the ground in a casino. It seems, at least that last glimpse we got of him, that his shtick wasn't entirely an act. He was killed a short time later. It's sad. Was he a thug or not? He was one of your idols, right?
Yes, and this is part of what makes rappers so complex. Is like I told you about me. A lot of us come from rough backgrounds, and the things we sing about are true from where we come from. It may not be real in the sense that we are participating in criminal or violent acts, but it's certainly real that we come from that mindset. I think that is what you saw with the deceased rapper. He was not a violent person, but that streak was still in him from where he came from. It's like that for a lot of us. There are some pretenders, but a lot of the guys come from some real expletive.
Well, somebody say, why are they cussing? Rappers don't cuss. Next one. That is very well put, and actually, that is very well put, and actually speaks to one more thing that troubles me. I think that the young guys on the streets recognize the streak you refer to, and I think they know what is real and what is not. The issue, though, is that they don't seem to draw the line where you draw the line in the way you claim to. You say that you are mostly interview rap name, but not all the way. How do you think your music affects those guys that are, quote, all the way?
I don't think that it affects them at all. The guys that are out on the streets don't need music to motivate them. They are already doing the stuff without the music. In fact, it is these guys coming from the streets that are making the music. The music is not making the guys in the streets.
Like yourself, you used to deal drugs pretty big time, didn't you?
Yeah, when I was coming up, I did a lot of stuff back then just to survive. It's how you made it in my neighborhood. I did what I needed to do to take care of my family and to protect myself. It's only because I was good at this music that I'm not still back there, or maybe even dead. I got out of the drug game, and now I'm doing something positive.
Well, let's be honest. You're not out of the drug game. You just switched departments. You went from sales to marketing, right? I mean, you still promote that lifestyle in your music.
How so?
Well, you commonly reference it in your music, and not from a past tense perspective. You even have a song out now that basically says if people want to buy drugs, they should just ask one of your entourage. I even heard you rap a lot about how you and your friends packaging drugs for sale and counting drug money in a present-day context. From your music, it's not clear whether drug dealing is a side business for you or if your rap career is a front for it. I think I've even heard you say that if rapping ceased to fund your lifestyle adequately, you wouldn't hesitate to go back to selling. Am I right?
Yeah, those songs are out there, but again, that is not me. That is just the image of the interview rap name.
Still, you aren't out of the drug game. Even if you're not selling drugs, you're providing the soundtrack for people that do.
I guess that is one way of looking at it.
Based on that, I want to get your thoughts on what correlation, if any, you see between the content that so many young black artists put out and the statistics we see about blacks being killed, involved in drugs, etc. in our country. Do you see any connection?
Not at all. Rap music isn't the cause of the problems in our country. I don't think rap music or any other music causes people to do anything.
Well, I'm not interested primarily in what the music is causing. I'm more interested in what is causing the content of the music. What is driving it, and what is driving the market for it? Do you see any correlation between the bad content in the music and the stuff happening in real life?
I like the way you said that. This is something that most people don't understand. The people that have a problem with rappers, particularly black rappers, need to understand that rap is not the cause of what is happening in our country. It is the response to it. The music isn't shaping our society. Society is shaping the music.
I can agree with that to a point, but do you think that the artist bears some responsibility in how he or she sings about what's going on?
All I know is that the fires of violence, drugs, murder, and all that other expletive were burning long before the first rapper started to rap about them. We didn't start those fires. They were lit before we were born.
Agreed, but do you think that the music serves to put those fires out or to keep them going? Are you as an artist throwing water on them or gasoline?
Neither. I'm just talking about what is real from the perspective of where I came from. I may not be actively involved in doing some of the things I rap about, but that doesn't mean I don't know that they are going on.
I hear you. Let me give you a real example from one of your songs.
Okay, go ahead.
This is from your song, Be Snitches. Tell me whether you think this is glorying in violence or lamenting it. The N was talking loud in the streets until I put two in his head. You better call them black and whites, 'cause this N's black and red. Will they make it here in time? Nah, that effort's dead. Now his mom's a baby short 'cause of what her B-snitch said.
From my perspective, this is just singing about what is real to me. In the world I came from, people that talk to the police about a situation can lose their lives. I'm not saying it's right. I know that most people may not be able to relate to it, but for me, that is what I understand, is the life I know.
But you were talking about it in first person. You're not saying that there was a person killed because of talking to the police. You were saying that I killed a person because of it. This goes back to what I said about earlier. You sing about stuff like this, and a year later we saw you were arrested for assault. How is a listener, especially a young person, supposed to know if you are really doing these violent acts, or if it's just violent acts, or if it is just an act?
I don't know if that is up to me to answer that. I just put out the music that I want to put out and then let people decide for themselves.
Think about it, though. What about all those mothers who have had a son murdered because he was willing to cooperate with the police? Do you think that your reference to putting 2 bullets in a snitch sits well with those moms? I have a friend whose son was killed like that by a kid in our city. Do you think about how your lyrics might affect her?
Again, I don't know how else to say it. If that line would bother her, she doesn't need to listen. I rap about what is really going on.
But do you not feel, however, that there's a better way to talk about it? Like back in 1997 when Artist Name came out with Rap Song. That song was undeniably about the violence he had seen. The song talked about murder, guns, drugs, etc. All of the same vocabulary we find in some of your music. The words were the same, but his point that we need to stop the murder, put down the guns, and quit selling the drugs.
I know the song, but I don't see how it is any different from what I have said. Both songs have violent imagery. They both use the same vocabulary. Both of them paint a picture of homicide by gunshot. It is violence in music, period.
That's like saying there's no difference between a cow's milk and a cow's urine because they are both liquid secretions from a cow. You do understand that one is fit for consumption and the other is not, right?
Whether you think someone should consume my music or not, it all comes down to me being true to what I know as an artist. I know a lot of America doesn't understand what I talk about, especially a lot of whites in America.
So you're saying that the reason I see something wrong with B snitches is that I'm white, and that if I was black I wouldn't see anything wrong with it. Surely that can't be the case.
I'm saying that you wouldn't understand the hell I came from if you wanted to, and that is why you don't understand the music that comes out of that hell. I rap from a place of reality based on that hell. What difference is it to you anyways? How does what I sing about affect your life?
Well, it doesn't affect my life per se. It does, however, say something about who we are as a society, though. Let me ask you this question. In America, do you think that black people are murdered at the same rate as white people are at a higher rate?
Much higher rate, but that has nothing to do with the music.
I understand, but just hear me out. So we agree that black people are murdered at much higher rates in our country than white people. Here's my second question. In a typical day on American radio, do you think they play more music by black artists that talk about violence towards blacks or by white artists that talk about violence towards blacks?
Probably black artists that talk about violence towards blacks.
I would agree with you. Why do you think there is a larger market to hear black artists glorying in killing each other, dealing drugs, throwing money at naked women, etc., than there is to hear white artists sing about it? We certainly know that there are white people that do those things, but where is the music that talks about it? We know it's out there, but why isn't it all over our radios and televisions? Whites comprise the majority of the population. Why are they not making the majority of the music with that content?
There are white artists out there that talk about those things.
I know there are, but they're not spotlighted in the same way that black artists are, right?
I guess that's just the way it is right now.
Well, not just right now. I think that's the way it is. For some reason in this country, there is no large-scale market to hear white folks sing about these things. Yet there seems to be a huge market to hear blacks sing about them. What is it about violence, guns, drugs, murder, and throwing money at strippers that seems so fitting when sung by a black artist, but so out of place when sung by a white artist? That type of content is so branded to black artists that when a white person sings and does the same things, people say they look silly. They often get made fun of and labeled as a fraud. Or worse, people say that the white artists are trying to act black. Since when did those behaviors become synonymous in our culture with acting black?
I really don't think about it like that. Race isn't like that for me. My fans come in all races. White people buy my albums and come to my shows. In fact, statistics say that white people buy more rap music than black people.
Well, there's a lot to consider behind those statistics. First, whites are nearly 70% of the music buying populations and blacks are only 14%. Secondly, you'd also have to look at other genres of music. What percentage of rock, country, opera, classical, etc. do blacks purchase versus whites? This is another discussion entirely. The bigger point here is when you tell me that white people enjoy hearing black artists sing about violence, sex, and drugs, I don't feel that should be viewed as a great endorsement, especially when you told me earlier that white people can't fully relate to the content of your music.
Well, you are focusing on the race element of this thing, and I'm seeing beyond that. I'm not even thinking about race in my music anymore. I have graduated. I'm moving beyond white music or black music, even beyond American music. I actually reject those labels. I'm on to making music for the whole world. People love me all over the world, and you seem to be more focused on race than I am.
Actually, I'm focused on something much deeper than you think. I'm focused on why I can't find many mainstream broadcasters and retailers willing to offer music by white artists that talk about killing whites, blacks, Jews, or anyone else. Yet these same broadcasters or retailers prominently offer music by black artists that talk about killing blacks but not other races of people. Does that not strike you as strange, especially since you don't think about race in your music?
Are you implying that white artists don't talk about killing people in the first person, as you say?
There are absolutely white artists that talk about that stuff. There are even white artists that talk about killing blacks in ways that will give you chills. The issue is that I don't find those people featured on mainstream media outlets. You have to go way off the main broadcast and retail thoroughfares to find that music. You won't hear these artists on radio conglomerate stations or see them in television conglomerate networks. No soft drink or clothing company wants to touch those artists with a 10-foot pole. But when it comes to U&B snitches, people clamor for it. The idea of the violent black artist seems to be very appealing to the masses.
Maybe it is because people know we are singing about the real problems of the world. Maybe they can relate to it because they know it is real life. I talk about what is really going on.
Molesting, kidnapping, and murdering little children really goes on. This is a part of real life. Do you think that if you started rapping about grabbing little children and killing them in abandoned buildings, you would be loved as much around the world?